Ready? Are we ready? Okay. The November 15th, 2023 meeting of the San Mateo County Board of Education will come to order. As is our practice, this meeting will be recorded. The board provides remote access for members of the public and welcomes community members joining in person and remotely. The board is following the requirements of Assembly Bill AB 2449, which enables remote participation by board members only under specific circumstances. Would Board Member Alvayo like to speak at this time?
Thank you, President Gerard. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. I'm calling in because I did something to my back and have been at the chiropractor's a couple of times, and I'm staying home, lying down a lot, and I'm able to join you remotely. So thank you for letting me. And there's nobody else in the room with me. I remember to cover that.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve Board Member Alvaro's remote attendance this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second? There is a motion to approve Board Member Alvaro's remote attendance this evening made by Mr. Limpert and a second by Mr. Cannon. Is there any further discussion? May I please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Bonini,
Yes.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert,
Aye.
Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with a unanimous vote, and the board has approved Board Member Alvaro's remote attendance this evening. We use simultaneous interpretation in Spanish for those attending virtually through the end of public comment. Translation will continue further into the meeting if people are utilizing the channel. Thank you to our interpreter, Teresa Mendeville, for joining us remotely. For meeting attendees wishing to access the Spanish translation channel on Zoom, click on the interpretation button on the menu bar. We ask that all speakers be mindful of the Spanish interpretation and speak slowly and clearly. I ask board members to speak directly into the microphone and remind all speakers who are wearing masks to remove their mask when speaking in order to be clearly heard by all attendees. On behalf of the board, I want to welcome to the dais Marco Chavez, Deputy Superintendent, Educational Services Division, who is attending for Superintendent McGee tonight. Item 1B is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
There is a motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Cannon and a second by Mr. Torres. Is there any further discussion? May I please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Bonini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert,
Aye.
Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and the agenda for tonight's meeting has been approved. Item 2 is public comment. Guidelines for public comment are available on the San Mateo County Office of Education website and in board docs, as well as on the table outside the boardroom in both English and Spanish. If there are speakers who require Spanish interpretation, our interpreter, Ms. Mendeville, will interpret following each speaker's comments. At this time, members of the public may provide comments for topics not included on the approved agenda. The County Board of Education does not act upon any matter that has not been agendized except under limited circumstances as permitted by law. It is the policy of the county board to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where appropriate. Deputy Superintendent Chavez, do we have any comments submitted prior to the meeting?
There were no comments submitted prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Speakers are invited to make live comment and have 3 minutes to speak. The board's executive assistant, Jennifer Perna, will keep the time and advise when the speaker has 30 seconds left. Please keep within the time limits. To make a comment over Zoom, members of the public may use the raised hand feature. Instructions for using this feature are provided as an attachment in the board packet. Once the hand is raised, please wait to be acknowledged by Deputy Superintendent Chavez. Deputy Superintendent Chavez, are there any members of the public attending remotely who wish to make a comment at this time?
Yes, we have Janice Palisari.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Palizari?
Good evening, President Gerard, Board Trustees, and sorry, Deputy Superintendent Chavez. I had Miss McGee's name here, so it threw me for a second. I was going to come down tonight to talk to you. However, with all the Biden traffic, I decided against it. So here I am on Zoom. It's been I'm here tonight first to talk and speak from my own heart. For me, it's been a really long month for me. There's been many ups and downs and a lot going on at work and off work. I had to take some time off this month and just went back to work this week, so that's why I didn't see you at the last board meeting. And I'm struggling with some of the things that triggered me to have to be off and affected me a great deal. Gateway in the county office is in my heart, but there's a lot going on there. So I'm here to thank a few people because the county office, the management stepped up to the plate in my mind when I did go out, and it was hard. I want first thank Tammy Moore because she made sure I had someone to talk to and check in when I was really low, and made sure she checked in with me to make sure everything was going okay. When I started to get feeling better, Sarah and Chris House made a space for me to be able to work and try to help Gateway in the future with stuff we need to set up with, and gave me that space. And I want to appreciate them as well. I was going to go into some stuff and I'm not even going to go do it tonight right now. I'm going to switch hats real quick. I just needed to thank those people because it has been a very hard month for me. I am now going to put my hat on as the president of the union, though. There has been a shortage in teaching staff and paraeducators in San Mateo County for several years. We are now starting to get some really good paraeducators coming into our system who really want to work. And it seems like our process is a little cumbersome. It takes 3 to 5 weeks to get even interviews to interview these people. And we have lost a couple of really good talents to districts because it's taking so long. I'm going to put a plea out, and I don't think it's going to be able to happen, but I'm going to put it out there. If a sub is working in a space and both the principal and the teachers think they're a good fit, and since we've been short for so long, why couldn't we just hire those people on so we can get the bodies in? That's my kind of our plea to it, because we are short staffed. Some classes are short staffed in special ed, and then there's some that look like they're staffed, but because people are out and stuff, they don't have the bodies in there. So it's kind of a false security. I know people are trying, but 3 to 5 weeks to hire people that we already know are good doesn't make sense to me. So I just would like people to look into that for the special ed people, because they work very, very hard They put in their time. Those kids are not easy. And I just want to do what's best for them in this case. So thank you for listening to me tonight, and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Members of the public may also provide live comment in person. Deputy Chavez, Superintendent Chavez, are there any cards submitted this evening?
There were no cards submitted this evening.
Thank you. Public comment addressing specific agenda items will be heard immediately before the board takes them up. If members of the public wish to speak to a specific agenda item, please use the raised hand feature when the item is announced, or if in person, submit a card in advance for the item. Item 3A is the November 2023 Employee of the Month. Alma Jover, itinerant paraeducator, special education, educational services division. Alma is joining us remotely from her home. As everyone knows, this is my favorite part. Oh, is she not?
Sorry, Board President Gerard, we just got information that she is having trouble with technology and not able to log on at this time.
Oh,
Still trying to reach her via text, but that's where we are at the moment.
okay. Well, we can always go back if she can get in. So
Thank you.
I'll move forward then. Thank you. Item 4A is the introduction of the 2023-2024 San Mateo County Youth Commission Liaison to the San Mateo County Board of Education, Bethany Zhao from Oceana High School. Oops, here we go. For the last 4 years, the San Mateo County Board of Education has been fortunate to have a youth commission liaison join our board meetings. These leaders bring an important perspective to our discussion, and we appreciate their engagement and contributions. This year, we again received multiple applications from talented and well-qualified youth commission members. Trustee Bonini and I interviewed 3 of the applicants, and we both agreed to move forward with Bethany Zhao, a junior at Oceana High School. Trustee Bonini and I were impressed by Ms. Zhao's knowledge of the board and County Office of Education, her civic engagement work, and her leadership in greening her school campus. She is also a graduate of the County Office of Education's Youth Climate Ambassador Program. I'm thrilled Ms. Zhao is here tonight and will join our meetings and discussions this year. At this time, I would like to invite Ms. Zhao to share a little bit about herself and her interest in serving in the San Mateo County Board of Education. Welcome, Ms. Zhao.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for having me here tonight. It's a pleasure to have been selected as the San Mateo County Youth Commission liaison to the Board of Education. And I'm looking forward to working with you all. To share a little bit about myself, I want to say that I've had the pleasure of exploring my interests both in my school and outside of it. I'm very passionate about multiple things such as civic engagement, environmentalism, and overall just representing youth voices and making sure to try to do my part to improve my community. So to elaborate on some of my interests, I believe very strongly in civic engagement and empowering everyone to use their voice. This especially includes youth, because I know that a lot of people my age do not feel empowered or that their voice matters. And I want to make it so that people know that despite their age, despite whatever barriers people believe there might be, there are not those barriers that we cannot overcome. So In order to explore my interests of civic engagement, I've joined the San Mateo County Youth Commission, and I'm currently serving as the co-chair of the Civic Engagement Subcommittee. I have a nonprofit called Youth for Political Engagement, and we promote political involvement through educational and artistic initiatives, because I found that you really do have to get creative when it comes to promoting certain things, such as empowering people to use their voice. And it is a pleasure, again, to be here tonight, and I am very excited to be here and thrilled to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments they'd like to make? Mr. Cannon?
Say hello, and, but I just thought it might be of interest to the board members to know of your family background.
Of course, I'd be happy to share a bit about my family. So my parents are immigrants from China. I was born in the United States in Los Angeles, but I moved here to Northern California when I was around 9 years old. And I think that my background has a lot of influence over who I am, because my culture is a very fundamental aspect of my being. I try to incorporate it in my life, and just little things such as my language are just really important to me. I actually speak Mandarin Chinese at home, like we stated earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bethany.
Are there any other comments or questions? Mr. Torres?
Hi, Bethany. I'm just really excited that you're here and I look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, welcome again, Bethany. And we hope that you will enjoy joining us as much as we enjoy having you join us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being here already very, very much.
Well, that's good. Item 5A is the introduction of Abby Robner, Director, Grants, Partnerships, and Operations, Educational Services Division. Director Robner. Yes.
Board President Gerard, members of the
Do you
board.
want to speak into the microphone? We can
Yes.
hear you better then.
Good evening,
Thank you.
Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Deputy Superintendent Chavez. My name's Abby Rovner, and I'm pretty new here to the county office in this new role in a new department of research systems and planning. I come from community-based nonprofit organizations and started my career in Redwood City at Garfield Community School and taught for a little while at the McKinley Institute of Technology. And then I have started 2 nonprofit youth development organizations in San Francisco over the past 25 years. One was called the I've a Dream Foundation, and the other was called Horizons, that focused a lot on college access, expanded learning, youth development, as I mentioned, and focused a lot on mostly in the Mission District community and other areas in southeast part of San Francisco. And I am very pleased to be here. I've never worked at a county office. I have really been enjoying getting to know the people here and also getting to understand a little bit how the systems intersect with one another and what the needs are in terms of grants and funding for all of the amazing programs that the county office runs. And as part of my work in the nonprofit sector, building organizations, I had to resource them and bring in money from private donors and foundations and companies. So my experience with grants is through that background. I grew up in the Bay Area. I have lived in San Francisco for about 30 years. I just ran home and had dinner with my parents, which was super nice. And I'm really delighted to be back in my home community, working with the team here to bring resources into the programs that the county office runs. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to digging in, building some systems to streamline grants and bringing in more resources into the county.
Well, thank you very much and welcome. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you. Item 5B is the introduction of Ron Soper, Director, Sustainable Construction and Facilities, Business Services Division. Director Soper.
Good evening. Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. Thank you for the introduction. And I am excited to be here as your director of sustainable, as a director of sustainable construction and facilities under Superintendent McGee's and Kevin Batima's leadership. A little about myself. I am a state California licensed architect and have most recently served at the San Francisco Unified School District, where I have delivered projects for that district for over 6 years under their 2016 general obligations bond. I grew up in the Midwest. I received my master's degree from the University of Michigan and came out here in California on vacation. And I never left. The rest, as they say, is history. My choice to practice in the school district is a choice that I made consciously as a way for me to give back, a way to give back to the people of something of societal value. And this is what brings me here tonight, to this office, to you. As your Director of Sustainable Construction and Facilities, I will have to answer to many stakeholders. But ultimately, the final stakeholders are our educated youth, our students. Education of our youth about being sustainably literate needs to be included by leading by example. Operating our facilities in a sustainable, responsible manner, modernizing and building new schools that are green, consume less energy and resources should embody the education that this district seeks to deliver to its youth. As Director of Sustainable Construction and Facilities, I want to help the 23 school districts in the San Mateo County achieve this common goal of sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the San Mateo County Office of Education. We're happy to have you.
President Gerard,
Yes.
I've been informed that our Employee of the Month is ready to go.
Oh, okay.
And I also was informed that we need a motion to adjust the agenda to bring that item back, and Mr. Niblin could probably add to that.
Yeah, I think it'd be sufficient just to have a motion
Oh,
to
because
revise the
we're
order of
moving an
agenda.
item on the
Exactly.
agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a motion to move item number, as soon as I find it. What's it?
5A.
5A?
I'm sorry, 4. Where am
4A?
I? 3.
It's
Make it
3, it's 3A. So the motion would be to amend the agenda such that item 3A will be taken up at this time.
All right.
Out of order.
So moved. We would like to have a motion to move item 3A on the agenda to be taken up now. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There was a motion made by Mr. Limpert and a second by Ms. Alvaro. May I please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Bonini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert, Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. Thank you. The motion has been carried by a unanimous vote. So we will now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our Employee of the Month, Alma Jover, itinerant paraeducator, Special Education, Educational Services Division. Welcome. I know you're out there.
Okay.
I am, Alma, going to read some very nice things about you. Normally, I would have you come and join me up in front of the room, but we're all going to recognize you online tonight. Each month, the Board of Education and Superintendent recognize an employee for providing outstanding service. For the month of November, we recognized Alma Jover, an itinerant paraeducator in the E22 Special Education School Program. Alma has served in the special education program since she joined the County Office of Education, first as a substitute paraeducator and later as an employee in March 2017. As a substitute paraeducator, Alma worked with many students in the K-22 special education program and moved effortlessly among different classrooms. Alma has made it a priority to get to know her students and is adept at understanding and anticipating their needs. She ably assists them in ways that help them become independent and successful. Alma is always willing to help out where needed to best support students, including moving to different classrooms when there is a staffing or other need. Her team reports that Alma is self-directed and thinks on her feet, making her ready to successfully address all types of challenges. She supports the students and curriculum needs with little direction from the classroom teacher. Alma's colleagues recognize her as an exceptional team member who is respectful of students and staff and appreciated by all who work with her. She is an invaluable member of her classroom as well as K-22 program. We are proud of our County Office of Education staff and are pleased to recognize Alma Jover for her outstanding work. Congratulations to Alma for being named Employee of the Month for November 2023. Alma, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Good evening, Board President Gerald, member of the board, Superintendent McGee. It was a great feeling to receive the title of the Employee of the Month. Thank you for recognizing how hard I've been working lately. But I must admit, it was a team effort. Without my team and teacher, I cannot do it. Thank you for the recognition. This will inspire me more to continue to work hard. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And Alma, you will be receiving a couple of special goodies that we will make sure you get, okay? And thank you for joining us this evening.
Much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for working with our technical difficulties. We appreciate you guys.
We appreciate them too, because we have technical difficulties a lot. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Item 6A, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the October 4th, 2023 regular board meeting as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
That was Ted.
There is a motion to approve the minutes of the October 4th, 2023 regular board meeting made by Ms. Benini and a second by Mr. Limpert. Is there any other further discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Benini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert,
Aye.
Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with a unanimous vote, and the minutes of the October 4th, 2023 regular board meeting have been approved. Item 6B, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2023 CSBA Good Beginnings Workshop as presented?
Move approval?
There is a motion to approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2023 CSBA Good Beginnings Workshop made by Ms. Alvaro and a second by Mr. Limpert. Is there any further discussion? May I please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Benini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert,
Aye.
Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and the minutes of the October 18th, 2023 CSBA Good Beginnings Workshop has been approved. Item 7 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is not debatable and requires a unanimous vote for passage. An item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular order of business for separate discussion and action if any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion to approve the consent agenda made by Mr. Cannon and a second by Mr. Torres. Is there any further discussion? May I please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Benini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert,
Aye.
Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with unanimous vote and the consent agenda has been approved. Item 8A, Chris Schaus, Associate Superintendent, Educational Services Division, will provide a report on the 2022-2023 school plan for student achievement for court and community schools. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public?
No comments.
Associate Superintendent Schaus?
Good evening, Board President Gerard, board members, Deputy Superintendent Chavez. Good evening. Very pleased to be able to present the SIPSA. Also want to kind of give a history as to why you're seeing it this time of year versus when you typically would have seen it in usually March or April of last year. To do so is to be recalled and reminded of where we were at with strategic planning and LCAP. So really in the process of aligning our systems with WASC, SIPSA, LCAP, all of the pieces where we really discussed the idea that we have multiple plans and they're all speaking to different actions, worked really hard to make sure that we were able to collaborate with staff and get us to one place that actually saw actions being moved into multiple plans. So that is reflective of why you're seeing the SIPSA for the 22-23 school year right now for us to be able to go through it. We are in the outskirts of that 2023 school year, as you are aware. Few pieces in the alignments that you'll see, which is why this connection is so important. Within that LCAP piece that we moved through and approved in June, you'll see the same measures of engagement that were used within families. The goals and the metrics have now been aligned, including the baselines that are being used within campuses to show the metrics of how our students are progressing in achievement, and then the data sources as well, which were pulled from the same stakeholder meetings associated with School Site Council and the stakeholder groups that met with LCAP. If you recall, we also came back with the indicators and indicated which areas were met and which ones weren't. This also helped inform the SIPSA process to make sure that we were on point with saying, are those still the same actions and the pieces that need to be coming forward within the SIPSA as well? You'll note a few different pieces in there and highlight pieces that also came out. School and parent communication was met within that, as well as the parent and guardian engagement process, which we reported in June as well during the LCAP process. And then professional development, really moving into project-based, what is that implementation and that improvement science piece, and how are we going to be looking at race within the work that we are doing as well. LCAP priority indicators that were not met. So again, these were areas of focus that we could put into the SIPSA as well. You'll see a strong goal around CTE alignment, project-based learning, the idea that our students can learn in a different way, in a relevant way, also within our classrooms and pathways. You'll also see that piece within English language learner instruction and some of the outcomes that you'll have within the goals that are addressing those areas. So fast forward to goals for the SIPSA, which are in alignment as well with your LCAP goals, shorter versions. Goal 1, really to look at identifying and participating in really implementing teaching strategies. So that piece of looking at the pedagogies that we're using, the modalities that we're using, how are we supporting students within that differentiation? And what do those strategies need to look like within the classroom? Other piece that has been heavy footed has been in PBIS, yes, acronym based positive behavioral intervention supports. That really is speaking to the work that we've done around really making sure that we teach explicitly, reteach, and help students understand the expectations, but also look at the behaviors that we want to see to be able to really acknowledge those in an environment that doesn't always necessarily do that for our kids. So a lot of our kids have not been acknowledged for doing right actions, and this is a way to really pull that forward within tiered fidelity inventory systems and other metrics that are formulated within the frameworks. You'll also see in goal 3, that robust career exploration piece that we were talking about, working with a group of teachers kind of moving into our spring sector to look at what that could look like in our spring this year, which is exciting because it is a piece that in all realism with teacher credentialing and pieces, we believe we found a way, but I'm still getting feedback from a handful of teachers in regards to what this could look like. Huge opportunity here to be able to run a 15-day course that will allow a certification and internship as an exploratory function initially, which would actually, if we do 2 sessions of that, allow for us to get funding within CTIG. So CTIG, which you'll hear more about as we go through the process, is really going to be a sustainable source for us of running programming as well. So those are some highlights about where we're going to go within those goals. And then lastly, it also requires us to have a goal in relationship with really making sure that we have coordinated services within that transition of social emotional needs and really academic needs for our expelled students that are with us. Some achievements. So these were also pulled forward. Huge achievement. We did increase, as you guys are aware, with the effective school solution piece. We had a lower level of FTE count, so full-time employment piece. It was about 60% of a contract. With effective solutions this year, it is a 1.0. So we're doing a full contract, which allows more access to our families and our kids for therapy, both on-site as well as some wraparound services for parents to be able to reach out and home communication as well. You'll also see up there the youth development specialist was a piece of that, hired in late spring, as well as our bilingual family counselor, which has also helped within goal setting and being able to communicate with families, but also very much so mirror student population and be relevant in culture setting as well. You'll see improved services. This is also related to the CSI plan, so comprehensive school improvement. That came through in Hillcrest. So money was received because we triggered a suspension rate, which means at Hillcrest we had too many suspensions happening at school programming, which indicated basically, is there a different way for us to be able to provide services if a student has to be removed from the main classroom? So you'll see in this model, we have 2 TOSAs currently working on being able to provide those services with the goal of getting back within that first period. So if the reason why they were taken out can be resolved within that period, working side by side with probation, et cetera, then the student goes back to the main programming. If they're not able to, they wouldn't lose instruction in this model, but it still qualifies as a suspension. So our goal really is to be able to get back within the same period that the student's been removed from class whenever possible. You'll also see in here 69% of the student survey during the teacher and student survey piece in spring indicated that they are knowledgeable and they feel like they are cared about in their learning environment. And then you'll also see the reference again to the youth development specialist, bilingual counselor, and PE in that case. And these are not necessarily in reference to whether the resources were allocated for, but more so were we able to fill them. So these are sometimes hard to fill positions, and all 3 of those positions were able to be filled. We just were able to sign a PE teacher, I'm gonna say a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, but in reference to what he's already been able to do on culture and campus and being able to get our students out there moving and involved in different games and team building pieces as well. Some key action items. Really focused last year in that 22-23 season, making sure that we were able to get up some professional learning communities. It's that data piece. How do we know the decisions that we're making are right? When do we take things off? And really starting to establish a culture of having the conversation around data and also making sure that we actually have data or base sets to even be looking at to be making some of the decisions. You'll also see a big indication of looking at student wellness and the stress management pieces, which is indicative of that increase that you saw within effective solutions as well. Metrics and data. This is data used. State allows us to be able to use LCAP data and stakeholder meeting to help inform SIPSA as well. These are all pieces that are also live linked in your June 14th board packet, so you can see the results of those as we've previously linked those into the previous presentation. And then also attendance and discipline data. We moved from our SIS system, which is that student information system, ARIES. You're going to be able to see actually a glimpse of what that new system will look like to have data more available in our hands as well. And then CalPads and the creation of really looking at baseline data. LCAP feedback, which guided the SIPSA piece as well. You'll see the student breakfast. These are also linked in your packet from the June 14th meeting, so you can actually see the Jamboards. You can see what stakeholders said in referencing, including the talking points and the direct family outreach. So those are available to you as well. Some data pieces. So we've indicated Feeder District A and Feeder District B. This is gateway data in regards to how our students performed over the course of last year. So these are permanent marks. Permanent marks on transcript would be a mark that a student got at the end of a semester, at the end of a year. That is an official transcript mark. And these are kind of the distribution pieces that you'll see. You'll also see they're color coded across the top up there, so you can see A through F in terms of how our students were achieving at close of last year. So again, that is kind of distribution of what it would look like if we were to break it down by feeder line. Also thought it would be more than appropriate to be able to bring forward some pieces that you may not have seen because we didn't necessarily have access to this level of data before. So we've talked about kind of data usage and how do we get a better handle on the data. Our SIS system, ARIES, that we moved to about 1.5 years ago, has now been established to be able to, yes, move through attendance and discipline and these other pieces that help us hold what you would refer to as kind of student cum files or these pieces. But what it does allow us to do too is it allows us to pull glimpses and snapshots of the data without having to manually plug those into Excel or other pieces. So these are self-generated directly from what came in after grade distribution. You'll see again on the outside marker there. And these are broken down by all students, which is your column 1. And then just to orient you from there to the right-hand side of that, they are different subgroups that the state requires us to also put into student accounts for identifying markers. Math as well is in there. So anything that we had available at the end of Q1 is what you're seeing. So these are not permanent marks. I want to make sure that that's clear as well in differentiating that. These are not permanent marks if we get to the end of that December line when the actual mark happens. So at this point, the gravity and the information here is not necessarily what we would want to see on D and F rates, but what it is indicative of is we've never had this level of formative right in our hands right now, which means that rather than being able to pull those manually and trying to make sense of it, this snapshot gives us something to move on immediately. It allows staff to see it quicker. It allows all of us to be able to see what are the trends across each member of the community within Hillcrest and Gateway to be able to better support kids before the end mark. Same is true of the current science grades. So again, they are not, these are not end of semester grades, so they're not permanent marks at this point, but you can see the gravity of being able to know who and how we're serving things down to the level of even looking at subgroups so that we can get better at making sure that we're looking at who's servicing, who's excelling, which pieces may we need to go back and take a look at or support to make sure that our students have success. Then current enrollment. And currently there are 16 students. Of that, 3, I believe up there are female and the rest are male. A couple of notes on the bottom there, you'll see LTELs, so 6 years plus in English learner programs. High percentage point of our English language learners. And then you'll also see something else that was called out as kind of like an additional measure of something to look at, which is 4 of those students. So of the 5, there's 4 of the students that are LTELs as well as special education. So that would be considered a dual tagged student within our system to make sure that we're meeting both sets of those needs. But you will see those are higher numbers, but it's also something that as we're reflecting and looking at, it informs what our instruction also needs to look like and what that scaffolding piece should look like as well. English learner progress off to the left-hand side there, just to orient you in case you were unfamiliar. LPAC levels, they're still 1 through 4. However, the State for Progress Monitoring looks at adding 2L, 2H, 3L, 3H. Those are actually indicative of progress. So a lot of districts would say, yes, my student didn't make it to 3, or yes, my student didn't make it to 2, but how do you know if they progressed towards? So those underneath areas right there of the 2L, the 2H, those pieces are actually indicate, are our students still moving in the right direction? So off to the right-hand side, as you can see, that will give you the bar graph. And to just kind of break that down further, what we want to see is that, well, not even actually the purple, to be honest with you. So purple is 4. We're actually looking for, if we have students sitting at 4, that's a student that we probably should be looking at for reclass opportunities and monitoring to see if we can move to that next piece. So reclassification would mean we need additional measures on the LEA side to say confidently that they've passed LPAC, in addition to being able to have other measures of achievement that we believe they'll be fine without being in direct instruction or designated or integrated ELD supports in that regard. You will see closer to the bottom there, though, 36.4% of our students decreased at least one level, with 27.3% maintaining the level that they came in at. So again, pieces that we need to be aware of and look at, especially when we're seeing those decreases. We want to see movement in progression, even if we haven't moved the entire band from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, et cetera. Last piece, and you'll see more of this piece, but I think point this evening that I really want to make sure that we're bringing forward is we're becoming more data rich, which will allow us to make better decisions as well. This is our current 5-star student incentive system. This actually helps us track behavioral pieces of what we want to see within expectations of students. So working with staff, what are the expectations that we have on staff? How do we recognize students for that? The biggest piece that you'll notice on the left-hand side, what we want to see is that graph continue to get higher with the number of times that we've acknowledged students for doing the right thing. So, you know, we've all kind of sat in that place of when do you hear from the teacher or when do you hear from the principal? And it's usually not necessarily always on the positive side. That's with all systems. So this gives us an opportunity to be direct to the source of the students that are making good quality actions and doing exactly what we would want them to do. And it's acknowledging their behavior. So if you read that graph at the bottom, that's basically indicating that of all of the students that have been rewarded, you've got 97% that have at least been acknowledged once for doing something on campus that was exactly what we were hoping to have happen. And then past that, you're seeing 2, which we still have room for growth. You'll now see a 3rd, a 4th. So that area we want to see continue to grow, because that means that we're acknowledging at a higher rate for the things that we want to see, which really shifts the focus of, rather than being punitive and discipline function, it's really shifting your focus to highlight and look for the positives and the strengths that we have within our kids too. Key actions that you're going to see kind of coming forward within 23 and 24, and some of these are already starting to move in that direction. You'll see the PDSA cycles. That is in relationship to the data that you're seeing. So it allows us to bring data to staff. It allows us to bring data to the PLCs and really have conversations around what do we need to shift or what might we need to change, and also what's not working that we can actually move forward with. Best practices and research base, and then those database decisions. You'll also see in there looking at really relevant curriculum and using that to fidelity so that we can make decisions as to whether it's working for our students or not. And then lastly, the PBIS work that we're currently working on too, which is also in play, which will kind of continue into that 2024 season as well. And I will say thank you. I appreciate the ear.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Salvaro?
Thank you. Thank you for that report. I had one question, please. The youth development specialist, what does that person do on a day-to-day basis? What is it actually there for?
Sure. So for better lack of terms or providing a parallel to it, it would look much more like a para without necessarily the special education function. So what you are looking at is a mentor, somebody that can be able to be, when a student may end up having to go out of a room to de-escalate, when a student is coming in for onboarding and isn't quite sure where they fit, highly visible before lunchtime, runs restorative circles. So really in the realm of the social emotional aspects and mentoring students, also helps with reviewing of their grades. Hey, Jim, have you taken a look at your grades lately? Let's take a look at, so very much so in a mentor capacity rather than a teaching and certificated role. And the students have easily gravitated to our current YDS very much so.
Okay, thank you. And what the training for this is a mental health background or a special ed background or what?
Not necessarily special education. I would say very much so on the social emotional aspects, PBIS, restorative practices, so certifications within those. She does hold a certification within restorative justice practices as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Ms. Benini?
Thank you. So I just had a few questions. My first one is just the timing. I'm just trying to match up the plans in my head. So I know it's later than normal because strategic plan. So usually in March or April, we would see the current year SIPSA, but then in June, we're seeing the next year LCAP. Is that?
Yes, it's
accurate?
absolutely backwards because when you think about it as a board, you would want to see it. The state actually has us do it in spring with the data that we previously did. So for this season, you actually would be seeing what we worked on this year, not the incoming plan. So you have it directly correct.
Okay. I was really confused by the dates and then I didn't realize it was off cycle.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Safety plans are the same way as well. So.
Okay, that's helpful. So I have a couple questions. One has to do with sort of the indicator. So when you're looking, I'm trying to orient myself, you're looking at the LCAP indicator priority areas like not met. That's for the prior year's LCAP.
It
right?
is, it's the analysis.
And so I was looking back at the LCAPs, and one of the things that is listed there is the approval of the UC A to G courses. And that's been in our LCAP for like years. So I was just curious, like in one of the prior LCAPs from before I was even here, it said we had one course and then we were adopting online courses that would align. So, and then it still says not met. So I was just like confused by that one and just wondered why.
And you may have been able to put this on both sides. We actually made it a point to put it on the not met. And the reason why is because though Ingenuity, which is our credit recovery system, is A through G aligned, we're not necessarily running in-house programs that are A through G aligned. So last year we had a gap working with Project Change and others, which meant that none of our courses were actually A through G aligned unless a student was in credit recovery or taking an Ingenuity class. So in fairness to this process and looking at it from a level of like, could we have checked the box? Yeah, I guess technically we could have checked the box because it's offered, but it's not offered to every student because not all students are in credit recovery, and it would have had to be through an online platform. So in terms of provisions of what we're looking at now within the CTE pathways and where we're going, those will be A through G aligned and they'll be in the portal ourselves. So any of the programming that we're looking at moving forward really can be put in the portal ourselves within alignment of both of our feeders, and really give our students a better shot at being able to be A through G aligned versus making sure that it's just the online system that we're in.
Okay, thank you. And that also carryover question, does that also have to do with the current work on still getting the curriculum or the adoptions completed?
Anything that we can do a crossover with, we're absolutely going to look at making sure that the syllabi fits, that we're able to put it forward. Still has to be put forward and approved, but there are samples within the portal that we can actually pull and work with teachers to make sure that we're in alignment with those things.
Okay. And then one more follow-on question. With all that, is that what we could consider helpful in trying to align for like transition back and like doing the work that carries over? Obviously we have other hats. We're on like deep into the gateway, listening to what's happening around that. And so it's a concern that I've heard. And so I'm just curious if it's really.
It's a huge opportunity. I think not only does it put our students back in a better transition piece with their home districts or their residential districts, but it also allows for our students to have an opportunity, even if it's going straight from us with diploma, it allows them to have an opportunity that maybe isn't just career-based, but also allows them to be able to get into college in a much more better shape that they wouldn't have necessarily had that as being an opportunity if they didn't have those courses.
Okay, and then I have just, I think I'll just ask one more question. On the metrics and the data, and on here, I don't, and I don't know enough about the MAP testing, but I don't see it here. And so I have a couple questions about that and where it fits. One is, do we do the MAP testing? Does that happen like multiple times? That's one. I'll just ask them kind of in sequence. Does MAP test for like a reading level? And is that something, because I'm looking at so many documents, but I'm also looking at the 3-year plan for expelled students, and it says focus on tutoring for, like if students aren't at, they're below grade level. And then in other conversations, we're talking about like the historical data around students and grade level for our schools is pretty low. And so that's like a threshold thing for me. Like, are they able to access this information? And then not to make my question like exceedingly long, but if they aren't, and if we're using MAP and then it's telling us that, are we providing other accommodations to access that grade level material? Like, Audible or, other things that where they can hear it and take it in, but don't necessarily have to read it. That's my long literacy.
I'm going to try to capture all of it. So, I mean, in terms of a few things, are we still doing MAP? Yes, currently we are still doing MAP. Students, when they come in, are actually MAP tested. It does give us a qualifying level of where they may be. We're not necessarily seeing indication that we have a lot of non-readers altogether. Low readers, yes. But in terms of outlying of MAP, it's not a great indicator because it's very transient in population. So we're not seeing apples to apples. It's very hard to track a student over time unless they've been with us for a couple of years. So it's hard to run cohort data against that because we now have a new group of kids. So to show, for instance, in the LCAP, one of the metrics pieces was looking at, we're going to all grow by 3 points. I don't know that that's accurate, but I'll make it up. We're going to grow by 3 points for LCAP. The problem with that is that there's going to be a whole new group of you next year. So I'm not even gauging the same progress or the same students at that point. So it's limited. Does it give us a qualifying factor of where students are currently? Yes. We do think that we can get better at that. Part of that is looking at the curriculums that we have and what they can do within formative and summative assessments within the curriculum. But outside of StudySync and where we're at currently in that, probably the most formulated for being able to differentiate by reading level, to be able to differentiate and actually have the tools of what you're talking about. So they do have access to be able to watch the video pieces. They have auditory through the program. So as our curriculum adoptions start to move, it's going to get better. Would I say that it's all where it needs to be within history, science? Because I've said that we need to move through those this spring. Those are not where they need to be. What I would anticipate is based on the state curriculum adoptions and the pieces that have gone through, they're much better at being able to service within integrated ELD strategies, in addition to many of the scaffold pieces that you're talking about. But we are not there yet in terms of being able to offer that level of modalities through the curriculum we're currently using.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Torres?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I had one concern about our ELL students, because I know that the improvement on instruction goal was not met. And I just wanted to know, was that because nothing was tried or something was tried and it wasn't working, or where we are with that piece of it?
Sure. So last year we were actually in first full year of adoption. So that did definitely make a difference. And I would say we got into full swing probably about mid-year with StudySync. So I do think that was an indicator. We also had our curriculum instruction department start to come out and do some work around EL strategies and some high leverage strategies. Still needs to come back in spring to really kind of hone in on those pieces, especially since we're going through new curriculum pieces. I will say that as going through the adoption process, we're asking our CNI folks to come to the table too, that have backgrounds within EL instruction to make sure that their lenses are on the curriculum adoptions that we're picking too. Mainly because we don't necessarily pull students for designated. So whatever we're choosing in integrated needs to be not only high leverage, but able to actually get it done for our students in terms of pedagogy as well.
You're amazing. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate your report. Lots of information.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the 2022-2023 SPSA for Court and Community Schools?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion to approve the 2022-2023 SPSA Court and Community Schools made by Ms. Bonini and a second by Mr. Torres. Is there any further discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Alvaro,
Aye.
Ms. Benini,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Cannon,
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert, Mr. Torres,
Aye.
Ms. Gerard.
Aye. The motion passes with a unanimous vote, and the 2022-2023 SPSA for Court and Community Schools has been approved. Item 9A, Randy Perez, Executive Director, Personnel Commission Services, will present the 2023 Personnel Commission Annual Report. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public?
No hands raised.
Thank you. Executive Director Perez.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, board members, and Deputy Superintendent Chavez. Thank you for having me this evening here to present the 2022-2023 Personnel Commission Annual Report. A couple of comments before I get into the report. You'll see in a second, there's a lot of text on some of these slides. And the report was put together in a manner that was meant for folks to kind of read it on their own. So I'm just saying that because I promise not to go through every single line on the slides. I'm just going to summarize some of the highlights and then talk a little bit about the data. And then the second thing I want to say is the purpose of the report is to summarize the work and accomplishments that the Personnel Commission achieved in the preceding school year. It's a requirement under the Education Code. We have to put this report together, present it to the commission for approval, and then it comes before the governing board. So that's why I'm here. Okay. So after that caveat, I'm going to skip to the core functions. Now I know there aren't too many new board members here, so you've probably heard me talk about this before, but I know that Mr. Torres is new and he wasn't here for the last Personnel Commission Annual Report. So I'll talk just a little bit about the core functions of what our office does. We do oversee the recruitment, job assessment, and selection procedures for all classified positions. Our goal is to run an efficient and prompt process. We understand that there are some regulations that we have to follow that do, extend the recruitment process a little bit, but our office does try to do as good of a job in mitigating that timeline and turning over people that can be hired right away. We also develop job assessments, and we're looking at creating assessments that are targeting the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we think job applicants need to have upon entry. Our assessment process also works to mitigate prejudice, bias, and discrimination in the selection process. We are responsible for establishing and approving job descriptions for the classified service. We also conduct market studies on internal alignments to recommend a salary for those positions. We are also responsible for conducting hearings and appeals on various employment matters for job applicants and employees. We hear and adjudicate disciplinary matters. So if an employee is suspended or dismissed, then they have appeal rights to the Personnel Commission. We are responsible for prescribing rules, regulations, and policies to help us run an efficient recruitment, selection, promotion process, and then all other areas that are covered in Article 6 of the Education Code. And then we work closely with the superintendent to ensure the efficient operation of the classified service. And I kind of think of us as a thought partner for our unions and our management to solve complex issues as well. So our commission is made of three. We have three commissioners on the commission. One commissioner is appointed by the governing board, and that would be Commissioner Schwartz. We have one commissioner that is appointed by the classified employees. And when I say classified employees, I'm talking about the largest bargaining unit in the agency, which is CSEA Unit 887. So they appointed Commissioner Palmer. And then the two commissioners appoint the third commissioner. That's Annette Shreve. She's our joint appointed commissioner. The Personnel Commission staff is comprised of myself. Lisette Quintanar is our Personnel Commission analyst. She's here behind me. Sylvia Pay is our Personnel Commission specialist. Okay, so this past year, we focused on achieving three goals. One was to complete the revision and approval of our merit rules and regulations. We worked to automate our assessment process, and we worked to get the classification and compensation project underway. Those were our three goals. If you recall around this time last year in November 2022, I shared with you that we revised a little over half of our merit rules. So this past year, we completed the project. All in total, we revised 23 articles within the merit rules and regulations. And in March, we finalized the approval and adoption process at the commission level. With regard to assessment automation, when I started, we were rolling out our written exams via paper and pencil. And so, this past year, we worked with our IT department to purchase 30 laptops and a computer cart. And a big shout out to our IT department for helping us to set up our laptops so that we can run our exams on the computers. But we also contracted with a vendor, an assessment vendor by the name of Biddle. They provide a bank of assessments that we could use for our clerical positions and some of our positions in business services. We also had a contract with we have a contract with another vendor called Codesk. They have a feature that allows us to run our exams remotely and also on the computer, but we weren't utilizing that service. So we worked with them to get that underway, and now we're completely fully automated in our assessment process. And then finally, last November 2022, the Personnel Commission approved the appointment of Coffin Associates to do our classification and compensation project. So we are actually now midway through the project. I've been meeting with the consultant, and they're in the process of drafting the job descriptions. We anticipate that the project is going to be completed in March of 2024. And then, we recognize that our office is a service provider. So we are continuously looking at ways that we can improve what we do, that we can provide better customer service. Recently, we developed a survey and we rolled it out to folks that go through our application and testing process. We wanted to receive feedback from them on their experience and then use that data to improve our processes. Okay, now we're going to look a little bit at the data here. So the data isn't, it's not reflective of performance. We're not like selling a product, where you're trying to increase your revenue or anything like that. It's just matter of fact data. This is kind of a picture of what happened the preceding year compared to the year prior. So we actually did have more recruitments in 2023 than we did in 2022. We're up from 44 to 52. So that's going to impact all the data in this slide here. Though we didn't receive as many job applicants, more people were screened through to go through our examination process. We were up on written exams from 11 to 28, and these are exam sessions. These are not actual people that we tested. We were up in our performance exams from 1 to 5 in 2023. And then our oral board exams, we were up from 44 to 45. At the last annual report, or in sharing the annual report last year, I shared that we didn't have the capacity to track how many job applicants we were testing in each of our exam platforms. So we put something in place so that we can track this data. And in 2023, we tested 202 job applicants for our written exams, 12 applicants for our performance exams, and then 163 job applicants for our oral boards. Any questions about this data? With this, the top data set, we're really proud of this data here, because one of the fundamental principles of the merit system is to develop and promote from within. So you can see in 2022, we had 15 promotions, and then in 2023, we increased to 22 promotions. Actually, last year, we had looked at the year prior, and so we noticed that the 15 was an increase from that prior year. So we're seeing a positive trend in promotions. And when staff can see that there is an investment in them and that there is a career path for them, then I believe that has a positive impact on employee retention. And then you can see that in our resignation and separations. We're down from 30 in 2022 to 19 in 2023. And then there were no layoffs this year, thankfully. Any questions about this data? The final data set here, we didn't have any new job classifications that we approved in 2022, but we were busy this past year. We created and approved 13 new job classifications. And we also reallocated 2 job classes. Job classification reallocation refers to when you take a job class and you assign it to a different salary range. It's usually a higher salary range. And it happens for one of 2 reasons. One is that you're looking at the market, and it shows that similar work is paid at a higher rate than what we're paying, or you're doing an internal analysis and seeing if maybe it's misaligned. And for these 2 positions, there were a senior credentials analyst and the credentials analyst. We had a vacancy in one of them. We couldn't fill it. We had it open for a month. So we looked internally to see if it aligned with other similarly titled positions that had a similar level of complexity. And for positions that had analyst or specialist in the title, we saw that the credentials analyst was far below. So we moved them up, and we were able to fill that position eventually. So now for the accomplishments, as I said, we revised and approved our merit system rules and regulations. We selected a firm to do our common class study. When I started, some of the roles and responsibilities that are traditionally under the Personnel Commission office were being handled by HR. So I worked with Associate Superintendent Tammy Moore to collaborate with her and assume some of that responsibility back. So one of those things was the classified onboarding process. So that's that third goal. We established a streamlined, efficient hiring process for classified positions. As I stated, we automated our assessment process. And I participated in the CSPCA mentor program. So I do volunteer work. This is a professional network, kind of like AXA, but it's specific to merit system districts. And they asked me to be a mentor to 3 mentees. These are people that are new to director roles that are working in merit system. Let's see. I also presented at the Merit Academy. The Merit Academy is kind of like the AXA Personnel Academy, but it's for merit system districts. It's over the course of 4 months, I believe. There are 8 sessions. I also presented at the mentor program. Let's see, our staff was asked to participate in professional development and feedback. Our Personnel Commission analyst, Ms. Quintanar, served on the training committee. The training committee establishes the curriculum for the Merit Academy. They also came up with the mentor program idea. I was the president of the School Personnel Commissioners Association of Northern California, SPCA-NC, this past year. And this volunteer work that I do as a representative of San Mateo County Office of Ed. So I take a great deal of pride in representing our agency in this work. Let's see. And then finally, we always work to improve transparency in what we do and demystify our processes. A lot of people don't understand exactly what we do. So, working with our labor groups and management with that. So goals for the future, a lot of these are dependent on the classification and compensation study. So that's the first goal, is to get that approved, work with the consultant to get that approved, and then work with our staff to implement it. But essentially what we are looking for to accomplish with that study is to have occupational families established so that our staff can see more clearly where their next step is in the agency. And then, we hope to build professional development to help our staff to get to those levels. If we have job descriptions that better reflect the work, that identify the industry knowledge, skills, and abilities, then that's also going to help us improve our job assessment development. If we're paying better wages, that's going to help us with, our quality of candidates and our recruitment efforts. And then finally, we are, I think this is going to be a standing goal. We are seeking to align our selection procedures with the county office's vision for achieving equity. This was a stated goal last year as well. I just want to thank everyone that has served and dedicated their time and expertise to score our supplemental questions or to serve on our oral and performance panels. I know that we couldn't do our work without their expertise and their time. I also want to thank our IT department, our facilities. They're just awesome and amazing in providing service to us, whether it's setting up the room for our commission meeting or setting up our laptops for our exams. They're just amazing. So, okay, I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions? Mr. Cannon?
Very impressive report. Thank you so much. How much is there still to do on the reclassifications?
So we're midway through. The consultant is working on drafting the job descriptions right now. And then once the job descriptions are set, then that's when the compensation study begins. So we're anticipating that the study will be completed in March 2024.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments? Well, thank you so much. It was a very thorough report, and we appreciate you being here with us this evening. Thank you. Item 9B, the board will receive the initial proposal from the California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 789 to the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools for the 23-24 reopener collective bargaining agreement. This item will be brought back at the December 13th, 2023 board meeting for a public hearing. Tammy Moore, Associate Superintendent, Human Resources, is available to answer any questions the board may have. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public?
No comment.
Associate Superintendent Moore.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Deputy Superintendent Chavez. You have before you the initial proposal from CSEA Chapter 789 to the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools for the 2023-2024 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement. And I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Item 9C. The board will receive the employer's initial proposal for the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools to CSEA Chapter 789 for the 2023-2024 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement. This item will be brought back at the December 13th, 2023 board meeting for a public hearing. Tammy Moore, Associate Superintendent, Human Resources, is available to answer any questions the board may have. Before we begin, are there any questions from the public? No. Associate Superintendent Moore.
You also have before you the initial proposal from the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools to California School Employees Association, Chapter 789 for the 2023-2024 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement. And I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much for being here this evening. We appreciate it. And there is no action to take on this item. So thank you. Oh, one more. Oh, goody. Okay. Item 9D, the board will receive the initial proposal for CSEA Chapter 158 to the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools for the 2023-2024 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement. This item will be brought back at the December 13th, 2023 board meeting for a public hearing. Tammy Moore, Associate Superintendent, Human Resources, is available this evening to answer any questions board members may have. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Superintendent Moore.
Similar to the previous item, you also have before you the initial proposal from CSEA 158 to the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools for the 23-24 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement, and I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There is no action to take on this item, and thank you so much for being here this evening and presenting these items to us. Okay, item 9E. The board will receive the employee's initial proposal for the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools to CSEA Chapter 158 for the 2023-2024 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement. This item will be brought back at the December 13th, 2023 board meeting for a public hearing. Tammy Moore, Associate Superintendent, Human Resources, is available to answer any questions the board may have. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Associate Superintendent Moore.
This is the last one, I promise. So you also have before you the initial proposal from the San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools to CSEA Chapter 158 for the 23-24 Reopener Collective Bargaining Agreement, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. There is no action to take on this item, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 9F is superintendent's comments. Superintendent McGee submitted her comments as part of the board packet. Deputy Superintendent Chavez, do you have any additional comments to make?
I actually do.
Okay, thank you.
So first, I would like to express a warm welcome to our Youth Commission Liaison, Bethany Sao. It's going to be great to have your perspective in this forum. While I'm not going to be sitting here, I'm going to be over there, but I'm going to be enjoying your perspective. Also, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I want to express my gratitude for the trust of our team that to serve here this evening and to be present this evening while Superintendent McGee is on her scheduled vacation time. So I'm grateful for that. I would also like to express my gratitude to the One SMCOE team for all that they do for students and their families. And it's also great to be part of the larger organizations team. So I'm grateful for that and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Finally, I have the honor of wishing Deputy Superintendent Baltima a very happy birthday. He will be celebrating his birthday on December 6th. So those are all my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy birthday. Board members, item 10A, the board will engage in a first reading of updated gamut policies. No action is required. The board policies will come back to the board at its December 13th, 2023 meeting for a second reading and potential action. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public?
No comments.
Deputy Superintendent Chavez?
Yes, thank you, President Gerard. The Board Policy Subcommittee met on October 27th, 2023 to review new, updated, and mandated policies for from the California School Boards Association. The subcommittee is making the following policy recommendations for the full board's consideration. One, board bylaw 9124 titled Attorney. The board already has an approved policy in place, and the subcommittee decided not to take action on the CSBA's changes to this policy at this time. If needed, the subcommittee will bring back the updated policy at a future meeting. And then the second item is board policies to be adopted as superintendent's policies. The subcommittee recommends that the listed mandated board policies be adopted by the superintendent as superintendent's policies. The county office does not currently have any of these policies that are listed. And finally, that these recommendations are listed in that spreadsheet tool that was developed titled First and Second Reading for CSBA Policy Updates, which also includes a link to the edited policies. So I'll entertain any questions you may have, and also we have the board subcommittee members here.
Okay, are there any questions or comments at this time? Ms. Benini?
Oh, I just had a question about, I'm looking for the number. And I think it's, give me a second. There was one policy, I can't find it right this second. There's one policy that was proposed to be superintendent policy that there was discussion about having a parallel. It was the freedom of expression. Freedom of speech. Oh, it's
5145.2.
Yes, thank you. 5145.2, freedom of speech and expression. And the discussion, just for the board's knowledge, was around the fact that we would also like to have that policy. And I believe the resolution of it was to maintain it as a board policy, not a superintendent policy, and reference board and superintendent. Is that on? I don't see it in the memo. That's why I'm asking.
Right. It's on
the bottom of the chart.
On the tool, on the chart at the bottom. But it's my understanding, but please, team, my understanding is that this was not being brought forth at this time, but there was going to be further consideration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Just want to make sure.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. There's no action to take at this time, and it will be brought back at the December 13th meeting. Item 10B, Kevin Baltima, Deputy Superintendent, Business Services Division, will provide background information on the investment policy, Board Policy 3430. Because this is a board policy, the board cannot make changes without a first and second reading. If the board requests changes, the superintendent's team will make the appropriate modifications, and the item will be brought back for a second reading, at which time it will be agendized as a discuss act item. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public?
No comments.
Deputy Superintendent Baltima.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Chavez. In compliance with Board Policy 3430, we are to annually provide this for you for your review, which we are doing this evening. We also wanted to take this time because there has been some questions about the types of investments at the county pool. And they do provide an investment policy statement. And interesting, for the 2023 year, they added a sentence that I think is maybe important to our board. And specifically, they added this sentence: moreover, while complying with these legal mandates, the treasurer will also promote investments in authorized issuers that display adherence to strong environmental, social, and governance principles. So that's a new statement that they make in their own governance, which also supports, I went back to the 2021 investment statement. We actually had 3 investments in companies that are associated with fossil fuels, with corporate bonds totaling about $18 million. Our most recent statement in September 2023, we only have 1 investment left in the amount of about $10 million. It has a maturity date in 2025. So I think, one, you're seeing a statement at the county level about environmental stewardship, which also then is followed up with some action that we're seeing at the investment level. So with that, we provided the policy for the board to consider.
Are there any questions? Comments? Mr. Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Fultima. I think that's a result of ongoing conversations and your representation on that investment, or it's the the advising committee. So thank you for your advocacy of that. I think there's also been some leadership on the board of supervisors to try and get that movement made. And then if you could extend our thanks to the treasurer for making sure that made it to the policy. It's something that I think this county is committed to. And I've just been so pleased to see those investments going down over time as you watch the investment reports. So appreciation to you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here this evening. And there is no action to take on this item. 10C, the Ad Hoc Gateway Subcommittee will provide an update on recent discussions. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Subcommittee Chair Bonini.
Thank you. So I have a written report. I'm going to read it and then I'll submit it to Jennifer so she has it. The board's Gateway Subcommittee has been participating in the initial discovery session meetings with the National Equity Project, NEP. Only 1 committee member was permitted to join 3 sessions that our subcommittee was invited to. There were other sessions, but we attended 3. I attended as chair of the subcommittee, and then I shared that information back with the committee. Today, our subcommittee had our own session with the NEP this afternoon, and that was good. Our subcommittee also continued our independent meetings with community stakeholders with the connection to Gateway and the Corydon Community School System. We have been asked by most stakeholders to keep their specific input confidential at this time, which allows them to share more openly. However, when we make our final recommendations to the board, we can provide a list of the groups with whom we've spoken if the board wishes. In these meetings, we heard about some safety concerns on the Gateway campus, including new principal being on leave since early fall, potential shifts in protocol for classmate pairings and admission, and a single room being used for primary instruction. We also learned about a fight on campus because the police were called. Students were dismissed early for that day due to campus dysregulation, and multiple students were suspended. Respectfully, the subcommittee, upon learning this, scheduled a meeting with Superintendent McGee to address these immediate concerns and to learn more about the context. We, the subcommittee, believe that the board should have been promptly informed of the early semester shift in leadership, as well as the fight on campus for which law enforcement was called. Superintendent McGee has indicated a desire to have direction from the entire board, potentially in January of 24, about communication protocols for notifying the board of incidents. As she says, it's not typical for the board to receive these types of updates. The subcommittee would respectfully ask the board to provide any feedback on this topic to Superintendent McGee so that we can expedite a protocol to hear about these types of incidents first from her and not from the public. And that is to say that we heard about these things from multiple people that we spoke with in the public, and that was concerning. That is the report. If the other subcommittee members, Trustee Alvaro or Gerard, have any other comments, or if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions from the board that they would like to ask the subcommittee or comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Benini. We appreciate your report, and there is no action to take on this item. Item 10D, is there a motion to approve resolution number 23-36, implementing board policy BP 9250 to compensate Susan Alvaro for her absence from the October 4th, 2023 board meeting due to illness? May I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion to approve resolution number 23-36 made by Mr. Limpert and a second by Mr. Cannon. Is there any further discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bonini?
Aye.
Mr. Camacho?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Lumpert?
Aye.
Mr. Torres?
Aye.
Ms. Gerard?
Aye. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and resolution number 23-36 has been approved. Item 10E, the board will discuss topics for future board agendas. Would any board member like to make a suggestion for an agenda item? Okay, there is no action to take on this item. And item 10F are board member comments. I think I will start with our new liaison board member, Bethany. Would you like to make any comments about your first board meeting this evening?
Sure. So I want to thank everyone for being so kind and welcoming. It's been amazing to hear about the work that you all have been doing, and I'm looking forward to a very great year.
Thank you. We're very happy you're here, and you're lucky. It was a nice short board meeting this evening, so. Mr. Limpert.
I didn't do it before. I just want to welcome our student board member. It's great to see the County Youth Commission so strong, given my own involvement with it years ago. And just with my full-time hat on, we, in my other job, we're working on not just having student members on the board, but having a vote. I'm not sure quite how that works with the county board, but look forward to chatting with you more about that, because from my personal perspective and my perspective, my other job and my perspective as an elected official in this county, you guys are as much leaders and actually probably more important leaders than we are. So we need to have you really driving the agenda. So welcome.
Mr. Torres.
Yes, Bethany, thank you, or welcome. And Deputy Superintendent Chavez, thank you for stepping up and being here. It's great to have you a couple seats closer. Last week, I believe it was last week, board member Bonini and I were at the screening for The Right to Read. And they had a great panelist of community leaders and their work in improving literacy in our county. So I was great to see that and be present for that conversation. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon.
Just want to wish everybody, of course, a wonderful Thanksgiving. There's so many things going on in the world. It makes us at our house realize how much we do have to be thankful for.
Thank you, Mr. Camacho.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Zhao. Happy to have you here. I'm looking forward to next week. Is it next week already? No, 2 weeks. CSBA conference in 2 weeks.
Not next week, following week.
2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to joining you all in San Francisco. Glad to have it back local to save on some travel, but I think it's going to be a good conference and a good way to connect with county board members. Lots of pressing things.
Thank you. Ms. Bonini.
Thank you. Welcome, Bethany. We're so happy that you're here, and thank you for joining us. Also, I want to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving. I'll forget if I don't say it first, so I want to say that. I want to tag a little bit onto Trustee Torres's note about The Right to Read, which is a wonderful documentary, if you have a chance to see it, about dyslexia and literacy being the civil rights issue of our time. As we passed a resolution in our last one of our last meetings around that, and a lot of work that we're doing in the county around that, there will be a focus on multi-tiered systems of support, especially Tier 1, and where we talk about this literacy issue, featured at our SMCSBA meeting in March. So save the date for March 25th. I'm working on that with a lot of people, which I'll talk about later, and also with Greg Land, who's the president of the SMCSBA right now. So save that date. And then I just wanted to share, I won't share too much about CSBA, but I know there are a lot of panels that everyone's involved in. So good luck with those. And then I just, on the Behavioral Health Commission, mental health care, caregiver pathways, which I've mentioned multiple times, I just wanted to say general community thank you, and just let everyone know that there was a session that was held today. We had a couple of them here, which were really successful. And there was one that was held today, I think at the county building up in Alameda, which was for Spanish speaking and for youth. So I think that we're trying to put together lots of different pieces around getting input for this. And then we're going to be trying to roll out some useful tools for stakeholders so that we can put it to use soon. So I just wanted to share that. We're excited about that session happening today. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I do want to wish Kevin another happy birthday. Oh, Miss Alvaro, I apologize.
It's all right. How easily they forget you when you're not right there.
You just have to wave really big to get my attention.
Well, I did.
You did, and you finally got it.
I'm truly sorry to have missed your star turn tonight, Mr. Chavez, because you got to be in charge and I wasn't there, but you did a great job from afar. Not that I'm surprised. I'm glad that Janice Pellizzari is back at school again and that she's doing better. It's always hard when you hear that some of our beloved staff have been going through some really tough times. So Janice, I'm glad you're back. Bethany, I want to welcome you to the board, and we really look forward to hearing your perspective on any issues that arise. And please know that we welcome your ideas. You're not just a little figurehead, say, oh yeah, we have a student. There's a reason we have student board members, and it's because we want to hear what the student perspective is. So that's your job for the next year. So welcome. And lastly, I wanted to congratulate Mason Henricks, who today was invited to participate in a special ceremony around Transgender Day of Remembrance. She made a little speech. I wasn't able to go, but I heard that they made a little speech around protection for transgender students in the schools, and I'm really glad that one of our own staff got to do that. So congratulations to Mix Hendricks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the CSBA conference in 2 weeks. Also, Delegate Assembly. I think this is going to be an extremely important conference, the side part for CCBE. CCBE is being discussed by the board of directors of CSBA, and there could be some major changes coming. We don't know for sure, but it's concerning, and it's kind of a wait and see what happens type thing. but we will be addressing it. The CCBE Boards of Directors will be meeting during this time. And we'll go from there. And that's really all I can say. I think three of us are presenting. Am I right? No? I know that Ms. Benini and I are doing presentations for the CSBA conference. So we're looking forward to doing that. And I think it will be a great conference. I appreciate the reports this evening. They were very thorough and informative. And I want to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We all have a lot to be grateful for, I know. Sometimes we forget with all of the things that are going on around us that may not be so positive, that we still do have a lot to be grateful for. So with that, the next regular meeting will take place on Wednesday, December 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everybody.